NFV, Network Function Virtualization. Well, that's been a topic here at the Carrier Network Virtualization Conference. Boy, that's a mouthful, a lot of virtualization. Michael Howard, you are an expert. You've been studying the telecom market for many years, and we were just talking about what really is very transformational. I don't know where to start, except you're seeing some real deployments of virtual networks. Why don't you talk a little bit to that, and that'll start a conversation.
Okay, sure. So there's a lot of operators, almost every major operator, well, every major operator is planning, engaged in getting to commercial deployment. However, most have not. A few have out in front, like AT&T with their network on demand, which is Ethernet connectivity. They're adding IP MPLS VPN services on top of that, and they're about to add for sites individual selection of firewalls, VPNs, and other kinds of services that typically today reside in individual boxes at every site, every enterprise or location. Now, all of those functions can be put into software, and they are being put into software, and those can be executed on a CPE box at the customer premises, or from a CO, or from a data center. So the virtualization of those functions is really happening. AT&T is one of the leaders. Level 3, SKT, Telefonica, SKT with a mobile core network in Asia, in Korea. There's a lot of mobile operators that have chosen to start, including AT&T, Verizon, others, start virtualizing their mobile core. And one of the first applications, real customer services, is the VoLTE, the voice over LTE. Because it's a small new function, they don't have to change all the existing operations or the services. It's a new service added on top. So they're virtualizing that and seeing how they have to make changes in their network to add this virtualization capability.
It kind of gives them a nice little testing ground, I suppose, from which to build on, right?
It's a very good testing ground because it doesn't disturb existing revenue services. And it is a real service to customers, and so it's a great starting point.
Now, you've been doing some forecasting. I don't know if you want to talk to that, but I mean, just in terms of these universal CPE, I guess they're called, what sort of growth do you see in that area?
Right, so the universal CPE is a physical box on which the virtual CPE use case is deployed. So like the firewall, instead of having a firewall box and a VPN box, those softwareized services go into can be executed on this universal CPE box, which is basically a box with a server in it and a little storage and switching. So right now it looks like AT&T, British Telecom, Orange, Swisscom, Telecom Italia, some NTT. Carriers all over the world are trying to get to the point where they can do this. But we see there's a few hundred units of those physical CPEs this year, maybe 20,000 next year, and then it's going to escalate pretty quickly up to around 100,000 in the 2018. So it's a very real application and a brand new type of CPE.
Well, and it seems like cost is one reason, but it seems like we heard over and over agility and being able to offer new services was a theme that we heard.
Well, that's the whole idea of having, instead of a new firewall box, then a new VPN box, a new IDS IPS box, each time you want to upgrade the service. Now when a new software version of that comes out, you just download that software version to the universal CPE box and it gets executed there. So it's almost instantaneous, rather than a year and a half of planning a new physical firewall, etc., and then getting it out to the customers and then turning on the service. Instead, hey, the software is available. We can execute it in a CO, we can execute it on that UCPE, but time to market is just collapsed incredibly.
It can even be automated, right? So you basically, from the time the order goes, it's all no human intervention.
And so that's the idea, that there's a customer interface on which they can order. And for example, a Citibank might have 150 locations around the world. They buy from AT&T or Verizon or British, whoever they buy from. they put in an order and they say, here's the number of sites and we want firewall level number 1. Here's another set of sites we want firewall level number 2. And then within a day, and the whole idea is to get that no human has to be inserted into the process between that order online and the actual service delivery once all the boxes are in place.
That's a huge change. And one of the other changes, and there was a panel on this, the cord. Why don't you talk a little bit about the cord?
So the cord is the CO re-architected as a data center, CORD. So the CO is a place to distribute computing, and carriers have been doing this for some time of moving functions out to selected number of COs. It's probably about 1 in 10 COs that will eventually be targeted for this. Basically, it's a little data center in a CO. And so there's a lot of functionality that can be delivered out there, whether it's mobile or fixed. The UCPE function, those firewall functions, etc., for a lot of carriers are going to get executed in that CO, the CORD. So the CORD is a initiative by AT&T, Verizon, SKT, a number of other operators, and Comcast, Google, and they're figuring out a standardized way, a template of the hardware you need and the software stacks you need for mobile, for enterprise connection, for consumer connection. So they're all working together to find out what are the best practices before this is a widespread event of individual operators figuring out what to do. It's a great focused initiative by the group of operators, and more are joining.
And it's a fairly recent initiative, right? I mean, over the summer it started, right? I mean, was that their first official meeting?
Well, they've been talking about it for a year, but this year there's a lot of action happen, and the Cord participants have been at a number of shows. They've had demonstrations. It's a big deal now. Not deployed in a lot of places yet, but it will be.
Excellent. Well, it's amazing how quickly the telecom landscaping has changed, and Michael, you're always on top of it, so thank you very much.
Fun to be with you today.
Yeah.
Yep. Thanks.